MGM Grand Fire. On November 21st, 1980, the casino floor of the MGM Grand Hotel and Casino on the Las Vegas Strip was nearly empty just after 7 in the morning. The MGM Grand was the largest hotel in the world at the time, a 26-story tower, and roughly 5,000 guests were still asleep in the rooms stacked high above the casino. Inside a first-floor restaurant called The Deli, a fire was already burning. It had begun in a refrigerated pastry display case, sparked by a short circuit in improperly installed electrical wiring, and it had been smoldering inside the wall for hours before anyone saw flames. When the fire finally broke into the open, it found a casino full of fuel, plastic, glue, wallpaper, and decorative finishes that burned hot and fast. From the moment the fire was noticed, it took only about 6 minutes for the entire casino floor to be engulfed. Witnesses described a fireball rolling across the casino faster than a person could run, blowing out the front of the building in a wall of flame and glass. But the fire itself was not the real killer. Thick black smoke poured upward through unsealed elevator shafts, stairwells, and air conditioning ducts, climbing floor by floor into the guest tower, where thousands of people were waking to find the hallways filling with poison. Most of the 85 people who died never escaped their floors. They were overcome by smoke inhalation and carbon monoxide, not flames, many of them trapped in their rooms and stairwells far above the burning casino. Down on the Strip, Clark County and Las Vegas firefighters fought the blaze while military and police helicopters, including crews from Nellis Air Force Base, descended on the roof to lift hundreds of trapped guests to safety. By the time it was over, 85 people were dead and roughly 700 more were injured. Investigators traced the fire to the electrical fault and documented a damning list of code violations. No sprinklers in the casino, missing smoke dampers, and shafts so poorly sealed they acted like chimneys, drawing the smoke straight up into the tower. The disaster forced Nevada to rewrite its fire code, mandating sprinklers and alarms in buildings across the state, and the MGM Grand reopened in July of 1981, fully sprinklered. To this day, it remains the deadliest disaster in Nevada history, and the third deadliest hotel fire in modern American history. CityCenter crane oiler. On May 31, 2008, on the CityCenter construction site beside the rising Mandarin Oriental Tower on the Las Vegas Strip, crews were racing to finish the largest privately funded construction project in American history. Dustin Tarter, 39, of Henderson, Nevada, was a crane oiler, the worker whose job is to keep a crane's moving parts greased and running. That day, a crew was using a mobile crane to spread and organize heavy pieces of steel outside the tower, and Tarter moved in close to oil the crane's tracks. He was working low to the ground, right next to the machine, when the operator rotated the crane. The counterweight system swung around and dropped, catching Tarter between the counterweight and the crane's own track, and crushing him. He was the 6th worker to die on the CityCenter project. Co-workers and site responders rushed to him at the scene, but there was nothing they could do. Nevada OSHA investigated and found that the crane operators from Dielco Crane Service had never been told they were supposed to sound a horn before swinging the crane, a single warning signal that could have given Tarter the seconds he needed to get clear. The agency fined the company $12,000. His death became a breaking point on the project. Thousands of CityCenter workers walked off the job in a one-day protest over the relentless pace they were being pushed to build at, and Tarter's family later sued MGM Mirage and the contractors over the death. He had been the 6th man to die building a single complex, and the workers had finally had enough. Valley of Fire Prospect Trail. On July 22, 2023, in Valley of Fire State Park, northeast of Las Vegas, the temperature was climbing toward 118 degrees, and the exposed red sandstone radiated even more heat back into the air. Jessica Rhodes, 34, of Las Vegas, set out that day to hike the park's 4.6-mile Prospect Trail with her companion, Diana Matenzo Rivera, 29. The trail cuts through open, shadeless desert, with almost nowhere to hide from the sun. As the afternoon wore on and the heat kept building, the two hikers ran out of water. In 118-degree heat, with no shade and no way to cool down, the human body has very little time. Both women were overcome on the trail. They collapsed and died in the open desert before anyone could reach them. Park rangers found both women dead in the park that Saturday, and the Clark County Coroner's Office later identified them. Officials concluded the hikers had simply run out of water in extreme heat, and their deaths were attributed to the brutal conditions on the Prospect Trail. Two friends went out for an afternoon hike, and the desert gave them no second chance. Hard Rock Hotel railing. In the evening at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino on Paradise Road in Las Vegas, around 7 o'clock, guests near an upper-floor walkway heard a sudden commotion. Jim Herman, 38, was a restaurant managing director from Eagle, Colorado, a 15-year resident of the area who was in town on vacation. Up on the 9th floor, Herman climbed up onto a balcony railing. For a moment, he was balanced there, 9 floors above the ground. Then, he lost his balance. He fell all 9 stories. He was rushed to Sunrise Hospital and Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead at about 7:35 that evening. Las Vegas police at first suspected the fall might have been intentional, but detectives investigated and determined it was an accident. Herman had climbed onto the railing and simply lost his balance, a single misstep at the edge of a 9th floor walkway that cost him his life. CityCenter elevator counterweight. On August 9, 2007, on the CityCenter construction site on the Las Vegas Strip, work pushed around the clock on a 60-story hotel tower as the multi-billion-dollar complex slowly took shape. Harvey Englander, 65, of Las Vegas, was a veteran operating engineer for the contractor, Perini Building Company. He had already decided that CityCenter would be his last job, and had told his wife he planned to keep working only until she retired. That day, Englander leaned over into a hoist shaft to grease the elevator lift on the tower. It was routine maintenance, the kind of task he had done countless times across a long career. But as he worked, the adjoining lift began traveling up the shaft to pick up a load of workers, and its counterweight came down the other side. The counterweight system struck and severed his body, killing him inside the shaft. Site crews and responders reached him at the scene. Nevada OSHA found that Perini had violated 6 safety laws in connection with the death, though those findings were later withdrawn, and Englander's death became one in a string of CityCenter fatalities that drew hard public scrutiny to construction safety up and down the Strip. A man who had decided he was almost finished working never made it off the tower. Mandalay Bay flood channel. In July of 2016, heavy storms swept across the Las Vegas Valley, and floodwaters surged through the network of concrete washes that runs beneath the city and the Strip. One of those channels ran near Mandalay Bay Road and Giles Street, just behind the Mandalay Bay Resort. Sharon Nomura, 55, of Las Vegas, had been living inside that flood channel, and she was there with a companion when the water began to rise. Las Vegas storm drains can go from bone dry to a violent torrent in a matter of minutes, and that is exactly what happened. As the flash flood tore through the channel, the pair tried to climb out and escape the rushing water. Debris came down with the flood, and a shopping cart swept over Nomura, pinning her against the force of the current. She was pulled under and drowned. Her companion managed to survive. Her body was recovered from the wash, and the Clark County Coroner's Office ruled the cause of death drowning. Officials confirmed that Nomura's was a flood-related death, the first flooding fatality in southern Nevada in 4 years, and one of a cluster of bodies found in the valley's washes that month. For the people who live in the storm drain channels beneath Las Vegas, every rainstorm carries the same deadly risk. Cosmopolitan guardrail collapse. On January 14, 2008, on the Cosmopolitan construction site on the Las Vegas Strip, crews were raising yet another high-rise into the boom-era skyline. Michael Taylor, 58, was a safety engineer for the contractor, Perini Building Company. His entire job was watching out for everyone else on the site, spotting the hazards before they could hurt anyone. That day, Taylor was working at height near a guardrail system meant to keep workers from going over the edge. As he worked, a corner iron post that helped hold up the guardrail gave way beneath him. The support pieces, called kickers, the braces welded on to keep the posts standing upright, had been removed by a steel subcontractor to install a beam, and they had never been put back. Investigators believe Taylor fell 5 floors to his death when the guardrail support collapsed. Site crews and responders reached him at the scene. Nevada OSHA found that the subcontractor, Reliable Steel, had not replaced the support pieces and had not properly welded the posts, and issued 4 citations totaling $2,850. The man hired to keep the site safe was killed by a safety barrier that had been quietly stripped of its supports. Strip ironworker fall. In October of 2007, on a high-rise construction site on the Las Vegas Strip, the building boom was at its peak, and ironworkers were climbing the steel frames day after day to raise the new towers. Harold Billingsley, 46, of Las Vegas, was an ironworker, one of the tradesmen who walk the bare steel high above the ground to bolt the skeleton of a skyscraper together. That day, as Billingsley moved through the structure, he struck his head on a beam. The blow knocked him off balance. He fell 55 feet to the ground below. The fall killed him, another worker lost on the Strip during the same stretch of frantic construction that was claiming lives at CityCenter and the Cosmopolitan. His death was one more entry in a grim run of fatalities that turned the Las Vegas building boom into a documented safety crisis, as worker after worker died chasing the deadlines on the towers that now define the skyline. Las Vegas Athletic Club pool. On February 4, 2024, at the Las Vegas Athletic Club on North Decatur Boulevard in Las Vegas, Swimmers shared a lap pool that had no lifeguard on duty. Letitia Triplett, 58, was a 24-year United States Air Force veteran, and she got into the pool that day to swim laps. Almost from the start, the surveillance video showed her struggling, gripping the side of the pool and kicking her legs as she tried to make it across the water. She fought to stay up for several minutes. Then she slipped under. She floated motionless and face down in the pool for about 10 minutes. During that time, several people in the area looked directly at her in the water, but no one stepped in to help her, and she drowned. It was only when a swimmer in an adjacent pool finally noticed her that anyone reacted, and another member pulled her from the water, around 20 minutes after she had first gotten in. The Southern Nevada Health District later revoked the club's waiver that had allowed it to monitor the pool with cameras instead of a trained lifeguard, citing Triplett's death as a major factor in the decision, and her family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the gym. An Air Force veteran drowned in a public lap pool, in plain view, while other swimmers looked on. If you want more stories like this, subscribe and let me know what to cover next in the comments.